guys, in today's video I'm going to be testing one of the most asked questions, and that is how long does slime last? A simple answer if you can't be bothered to watch this video is it depends on what ingredients are used. So the first one to the test is the DIY clay slime, and this one is from Momo Slimes. It's a glazed donut slime, and the original packaging was a cardboard box filled with all of the little ingredients you need. The first one was a base that smelled like icing and it was white, and then you can have the topping that is a clay piece with two different colours of clay, a pink one and then a tiny bit of beige, and then a pink topping. So overall the slime became pink, smelled of icing, and had a really thick clay texture. So I was interested to see how this had held up after 2 years. Like you can see, it's separated into the slime and clay parts, and in the screw container it really stayed so soft, it was so easy to mix in, but in the other one the clay did dry out. This is a really great example of how different containers can affect the life of a slime over a long period of time like this, or just in general. Even though it dried out, it was able to just gain some of the moisture back and mix into the slime perfectly. It made it super thick, and the best thing about it was it really turned out exactly how I remember it feeling 2 years ago. So it's held up so well. The scent, texture, and also appearance looks the exact same. The new version has definitely changed in some major ways. The base colour is completely different. It's also slightly thicker, has a really creamy scent this time, not an icing one, and it has a hint of strawberry in there. The clay piece itself is also a lot bigger. It goes over the side of the container this time, and when it's mixed up it becomes so airy. This is actually my topping because I misplaced her one, but it's the exact same colour and amount. Next up we have Cinnabun from Momo Slimes. This is another DIY clay slime, but it's slightly different just because of the clay components used in it. This one also had a really small base last time, and I think the new one is slightly bigger. Like you can see here, it's really nice. It came with a jelly slime topping, and then you just mix it all in, and I remember the scent being so gorgeous and such a warm cinnamon scent. Again, this came in a box which they don't use anymore, but like you can see, this separated really nicely, and even though it was in the container that dried out for the other one, this one didn't dry out at all. Actually moved really smoothly. Like you can see, it just came out really creamy, needed barely any activator to activate, and when it came out was really good. This one definitely shrank slightly, but there's absolutely no problem in that. It's very typical of butter slimes. The scent was the exact same, the texture was very similar, and the appearance was the same as well. The new and improved Cinnabun was really cool. It had some different clay pieces, and I also noticed a tiny bit of clay in the icing this time. The base was also a lot thinner. I don't know if maybe it was the transit time that altered it, but it really was so much thinner in comparison to the previous one. The clay swirl has also improved a lot more glitters, as well as being super airy. However, the cinnamon stick was super dried out. It was probably intended this way just because of the amount of detail on there, but it was super easy with the flimsy texture to melt this down. I just broke it up once the cinnamon swirl had melted in, and this smelled exactly like the previous one. It was super warm, really gorgeous cinnamon scent, and it ended up being brown like this, and I overactivated this to make it thicker. They also included this amazing activator bottle as well as some extras and a care sheet. Next up we have a thick white slime, and this is Thicky Mickey from Slime Meowie. I adored this the first time. I remember it so vividly. It has the most gorgeous scent. I think it's a mixture of pineapple with just tropical scents in general. It's stunning. It has such a gorgeous colour. I love the little confetti pieces in it. I was really excited to see how the 2-year-old slime held up. I wasn't expecting this to be too bad on activating, but I completely forgot that because this is predominantly a white glue slime, there aren't going to be many other things in there to kind of pull it together, for example clay, so this is going to be very hard to reactivate, and I had to add such strong activator, and I was doing this for ages, just turning it up, and I would find that after a few hours it would melt down. So my fix for this was to overactivate it a ton to where I couldn't play with it, and then the next day it would be perfect, which it was, but it did melt down very, very quickly. Apart from that, everything was the same. It looked the same, it felt the same, and it also smelled the same. This was just so good. I was so impressed with this. They really didn't change too much, and I am so glad about this just because it was one of my favorite slimes and I'm so excited to play with it. It is slightly thicker, but it still has the good clicks, and this is just amazing. It really is new and improved, but it's still very much the same, and it's a classic and it smells the same. So nostalgic. I absolutely adored this. I love it. Jelly Bean Paws is another amazing slime from them. This is a cloud slime. It was double-sided last time I tried it. It came with some charms and it was just so good. It was super fluffy. It was before its time. Cloud slime back then, it was really hard to get a good one, but this one was definitely very good. It was super dense, and the 2-year-old version really held up in colour. It had a light colour, so I wasn't sure if it would fade, and it also held together in the normal cloud slime way. This holds together so well just because it has such little slime in comparison to the snow, but weirdly enough they never activate to be the fully perfect versions that they were before, unless they were like a super tough slime, which this one was not. So it didn't form to make what it was. The scent was definitely faded. It had like a sweet jelly bean scent, and yeah, it was okay. It wasn't anywhere near as good as it was originally though. So I did try and add some activator, and I didn't find that this changed it too much. It added a bit of flow, but it didn't get it back to where it was originally. Moving on to the newer slime, we have the jelly bean scented slime, and this actually didn't smell like jelly beans to me. The previous one did. This one smells a bit fresher for some reason. This is really gorgeous still. It's actually one-sided this time, and the other side has poor thermos, and like you can see here, it takes a while to fluff up, and when it is fluffy, it's so good. I would say it's smoother flowing than before. It's so light and airy once you fluffed it up, and overall this is a really great amendment to a perfect slime. Next up we have Kitty Loaf, and this was a unique take on a popular trend. This is a bread slime trend. Now the original was a really airy but thick butter slime. Like you can see here, super smooth. It smelled amazing, like a fresh baked bakery. And funnily enough, after it sat for 2 years, looks exactly like the new slime, but this one was a different texture. So first up we have the old slime, and like you can see, this mixes in relatively well. Like there's no hard parts, but it did take a bit of kneading to get in there. And when it was all mixed up, it was very easy to activate. This smelled amazing. It felt exactly like the original one. Actually, slightly wetter. My hands were like slightly wet, and it needed a tiny bit more activated than needed, but like you can see, super airy, still has that doughy texture, and honestly the end slime ended up looking exactly like the original slime that I had. The updated version is amazing. So the top loaf is the top layer is very similar to the original Kitty loaf in that it's butter slime. I would say it isn't as airy. It has more of a wet texture. I think it's more of the common clay that people use nowadays. But then on the bottom it has a snow fizz texture, which is just so phenomenal. It has one of the best ASMRs I've heard in ages. And this has a really different scent. So the previous one was a bread scent, but this one is way more of a comforting maple cinnamon scent. It's gorgeous, just so good. She spoiled me so much with all the extras. She included so many sweets, a borax, some extras in the form of slime add-ins, as well as a really detailed sheet. I remember this slime like it was yesterday. Melon Soda is such a standout slime for me. I remember it so clearly. This is the original batch, so it came with this gorgeous container, and you get this layer of cling film essentially, but it's an iridescent packaging, and this separates the two layers so they don't mix. I thought this was an amazing design. It smelled really good, and it also mixed together well. I needed to figure out whether this one was the actual one because I switched it out of the container. Originally it had a clay layer on top, and when I stirred this up it was very obvious that this was the slime. It still had the gorgeous scent in it, but the one problem is because this is a clear slime, it melts down so quickly, and paired with the fact that it's also a snow slime, it just melts down so much, so even if you activate it a ton, it just stays a bit sticky, and I think this is probably worsened by me wearing gloves, and it would have been fine otherwise. But it smelled amazing, and yeah, it's just down to the type of slime it is. The updated version was very similar to the original. It kept all the best parts like the packaging. It just amended little things like having two little bits of iridescent paper in between instead of one, so you could take it off one by one. And the base was also way thicker. I love her clear slimes. They last up so well. I've had some in the past and they do last for years and years and years. And yeah, I think this is one of my favorite textures from her. This has the same amazing scent. It's slightly darker, but I also used to film with more brightness, so it's hard to tell whether that color washed out. And when you mix this up, it feels the exact same, and it's an amazing experience. Neapolitan barely changed, and I'm so glad about this because this is a beautiful and a really well executed slime. So this is a snow slime, but it also has butter in there. So this is the original one. It's tri-coloured and they smell the same all throughout. It's kind of like a chocolatey scent. And when fully mixed, it ends up being this brown colour. I was really excited to see how this lasted after 2 years. I really wasn't too hopeful just because it's mainly a cloud slime, but also with the butter in there, I find that in conjunction it melts it down a lot. So like you can see here, it does have a layer at the bottom. I assume this is probably the glue aspect, and the clay was immediately a lot softer than it was before, which made it really easy to stir up. Like you can see, it also stayed together really well. Again, a typical feature of snow slimes. And when I added some activator to this, it didn't really activate too well. It almost deactivated in a weird way, which makes me think maybe this has some glycerin in there, because typically that happens when, yeah, glycerin is in the process. It didn't end up being as thick as it was before. It was what I expected. Like I said, in conjunction, these two things do melt down the slime a lot. It didn't look too bad when it was just sitting there, but when you took it out of the container, it ended up being far more jiggly than it was. The newer version had the exact same packaging, which I loved. I really think this is a classic, so unique. And I love the texture of the actual slime as well. It was a lot more dense. I really enjoyed the cloud slime last time, but seeing how it held up over time, I think this will just be a really fun comparison. It's beautiful slime, it smells the exact same, looks the exact same. The only difference is the thickness. They've also had to change their packaging. It's now kawaii postage. I think this is gorgeous packaging. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week. Bye!